I grew up believing in loyalty, especially to family. My parents owned a small but successful hardware store in a quiet town in Ohio. From the moment I could walk, I was helping out, first stacking boxes, then sweeping the floors, and eventually managing the front counter by the time I was in high school. College? I didn't go. My dad said, "Why waste money when you've already got a future here?" So I stayed. While my friends went off to explore the world, I stayed behind the register, taking inventory, dealing with suppliers, helping customers, and keeping the books. I worked full-time for 10 years, for less than minimum wage. I told myself, it's okay. One day, this store will be mine. I'm investing in my future. That's what they promised me. When my younger brother Tyler turned 22, he left town, moved to New York, didn't want anything to do with the boring life. Mom and Dad were disappointed, but they never pressured him. Instead, they leaned even more on me. I took over the books completely. I rebranded the place, updated the website, and even got us into local delivery. Sales went up. Still, they barely gave me more than enough to pay rent. Be patient, my dad always said. You're doing this for the long haul. So I stayed, loyal. I skipped vacations. I worked weekends. I was the one who opened the store at 6 a.m. and locked it up at night. When my dad had back surgery, I ran the entire store alone for 3 months. People in town used to joke, "That place should be called Alex's Hardware," and I'd smile, because I thought, one day it will be. Fast forward to this year. My parents were planning their retirement and talking more about the future. They brought in a lawyer to help with estate planning. And then, the bomb dropped. I was restocking shelves one afternoon when I overheard them talking in the back office. I paused at the door, heart racing, not really intending to eavesdrop, but what I heard froze me in place. "We'll leave everything to Tyler. He needs the help more than Alex does." I couldn't believe it. Tyler, the son who moved away, never lifted a finger in the store, who barely called. Everything I sacrificed, the years, the time, the loyalty, meant nothing. I stood there, invisible, like I'd never existed. That night, I went home in silence, and for the first time in my life, I asked myself a question I had never dared to consider. What if I was just the help all along? I didn't sleep that night. My mind kept spinning. Every memory, every late shift, every time I said no to a weekend trip or worked through the flu, it all flooded back like a cruel joke. By morning, I had made up my mind. I needed answers. When I walked into the store, my mom greeted me like everything was normal. My dad was sipping coffee behind the counter. "Morning, hun," Mom said. "We need to talk about next week's delivery." "No," I interrupted. "We need to talk about the will." Her face froze. Dad's mug clinked loudly against the counter. "I heard you," I said, voice trembling but firm. "You're leaving everything to Tyler. Everything." They didn't deny it. They just looked at each other, then back at me like I was a child who had overheard something grown-ups didn't mean to share. My dad sighed. "Alex, it's not what you think." "No," I said. "Because from where I stand, I gave you my 20s, my loyalty, my life, and you've decided I'm worth nothing." Mom tried to reach for my hand. "We're not saying that. You've been incredible. We couldn't have done this without you." "Then why not leave me the business?" I snapped. "Why not put my name on what I built with you?" Silence. Then Dad said it. "Tyler needs the support more than you do. He's struggled. You're strong, Alex. You'll always land on your feet." I couldn't believe it. I was being punished for being dependable, for being the one who never asked for anything. So because I never failed, I don't deserve anything? I asked. Because I stayed. Because I helped. Because I gave you everything. that makes me less entitled? They didn't have an answer. That's when something inside me broke. Or maybe it finally woke up. I walked out. Not just out of the office, out of the store, out of the life I'd spent building for people who never truly saw me. I didn't know what I'd do next, but for the first time in years, I wasn't bound by loyalty or promises. That same afternoon, I packed a small bag and checked into a cheap motel on the edge of town. I needed space, I needed air, and I needed to find out who I was when I wasn't holding everyone else together. That night, I sat on the motel bed staring at the ceiling, asking myself a new question. If I had the chance to build something for myself, what would that even look like? The motel walls were thin, the sheets stiff, and the air smelled faintly of bleach and disappointment. But for the first time in years, the silence was mine. I didn't have to answer to anyone. No deliveries, no morning meetings, no guilt-tripped obligations. Just me and a terrifying, exhilarating sense of freedom. I took the next few days to let my anger settle into something more focused, clarity. And with that came questions. Questions like, what do I love? What do I want? What can I do that's mine, just mine? Turns out, I had a few ideas. While working at the family store, I'd handled inventory, logistics, customer relationships, marketing, basically everything. I knew small business inside and out. Why not use that? I started freelancing online, helping other small businesses optimize their operations, manage their supply chains, set up digital sales platforms. It wasn't glamorous, but it was mine. I built a basic website. I created a portfolio from my work at the store. Yes, even if my name wasn't on the paperwork, I had done the work. And slowly, I picked up clients. At night, I journaled. I wrote about the resentment, the exhaustion, the hurt, but also the pride, because leaving had hurt, but staying would have hurt more. After a month, I was making just enough to rent a small studio apartment. It was barely 300 square feet and had a leaky faucet, but it was mine. I furnished it slowly, a chair from a thrift shop, a secondhand coffee maker, fairy lights from a dollar store. And every time I made a cup of coffee, or sent an invoice, or simply lay in bed and listened to the quiet, I felt a tiny spark of something I hadn't felt in years. Self-respect. Then one morning, while checking my emails, I got a message. Subject: Family store trouble, need advice. It was from Tyler. He said things weren't going well. He and our parents had underestimated how hard it was to run the place. He'd lost a few key vendors. Sales were dipping. Mom was stressed. Dad had started staying home more. And the staff was threatening to quit. He wanted to meet, to talk, to ask for help. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to delete it, block him, and move on. But another part of me, the part that had always carried the weight, the part that still cared, wasn't so sure. So I replied with one sentence. Let's talk, but on my terms. We met at a small cafe across town, neutral ground. Tyler looked different, tired, less polished than usual. His usual bravado was gone, replaced by something that almost looked like humility. We sat in silence for a moment before he spoke. I didn't realize how much you did, he said quietly. I thought you were just helping out. Turns out, you were holding the place together. I sipped my coffee, letting the weight of his words settle. I didn't want an apology for validation. I already had that in my new life. But I appreciated the acknowledgement. They're thinking of selling, he continued, or at least closing for a while. Mom's not sleeping. Dad's given up. It's bad. And why are you telling me this? I asked. Because you know the store. The customers trust you. You could fix this. You could save it. Laughed. Not bitterly, more like someone watching an old movie they used to love but have now outgrown. Tyler, I gave everything to that store. My time, my 20s, my dreams. And when I finally needed something, a place at the table, recognition, all I got was a pat on the head and a closed door. He looked down, ashamed. But you're right about one thing, I continued. I could fix it, but I won't. His head snapped up. I'm not coming back, I said. I'm building something new now, on my own terms. He nodded slowly, processing the loss. Not just of my help, but of the version of me that always said yes. I'll send you a list, I added. Contacts, vendors, systems I built. Use them. Don't. That's up to you. But this meeting, it's closure. I stood up, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty walking away from my family. I felt strong. That night, in my tiny apartment, I poured a glass of wine and turned on music. No responsibilities, no expectations. Just me, rebuilding from the rubble with nothing but grit and grace. Months passed. My freelance work turned into a small consulting business. I hired my first assistant. I was invited to speak at a local entrepreneur panel, not as someone's daughter, not as a helper in the background, but as me. I never went back to the store. They closed it eventually. My parents retired. Tyler moved away. We still talk occasionally. Short, polite messages. The kind you send to people you once loved deeply, but now know you must love from a distance. And as for inheritance, I didn't get money. I didn't get land. I didn't get a family business. But I inherited something far more powerful. Myself, my time, my voice, my future. And that's worth more than anything they could have left me.